back? Have we got more people in now?
She, I think she's struggling with her laptop. So,
Um, yeah, so I just have more time. I have a lot more time, and I'm so much calmer. And I've turned up for things just in a much more positive way because I know I'm not serving up a half meal, if you know what I mean, to to the people. I am actually doing a better. I feel like I'm doing a much better, do myself a better service, but it's impacted my home life as well because I'm not as stressed, and it was a bit like you mentioned in the session yesterday. It the roll down of how it makes you feel yourself, um and the impact to the wider people is just, well, just by asking that question, it's made a huge difference to me. So, and I have said no, and it's that being able to say no and then not feel I've got to prove myself again and again and again, which is how you opened it yesterday, is that I've got a choice whether I do this or not, and what's the end goal anyway. So I just ask the question is, why do you need that, and when do you need it for? Because I've got other things that I need to be doing, and it's a much calmer thing rather than try and stay up until 12 o'clock at night and look a disaster when I turn up. My skin looks terrible, my hair looks terrible. I just turn up in the wrong frame of mind. Whereas now I'm just having that time, and that um, I've made a conscious decision, and I will stand up and be responsible for it, rather than berate other people for taking my time. But it's me that's the problem. I'm the one that's taken on the extra things when I didn't actually need to. I should be able to delegate it, or just say I'm really sorry, but I've got other stuff that I need to do.
mhm.
Be
And
selfish.
I would caution the I'm really sorry, because even that's
Well,
necessary as well,
yeah,
because we over explain and justify. It is a case of I don't have the bandwidth to do that.
yeah,
I know somebody else that can help you, but I don't have the bandwidth for that, or actually that's not my area of expertise, and I don't think I'm going to give you the best value, or based on my priorities.
yeah,
It's not sorry.
yeah, yeah,
Why should we keep having to say sorry? And unfortunately, it's actually quite an English or British thing.
yeah,
We say sorry for everything.
yeah.
And then
Yeah, I do, because they're used to me just doing it. It's kind of quite a change, and they're like, oh, what have I done wrong, kind of thing. You can see it on their faces, like, you know, it will get better. And I see it more in other people now because I'm aware of it, and they do it. Other people can do it really well.
Mm.
Um,
You said
and
your husband's really good at
oh,
it,
he's a master, absolute master at
and
it.
everybody likes him.
Yeah, they love him to death.
Exactly. So it doesn't make you a nasty person. It's
No,
that trained patterns of behavior that we have that, as we've turned around and said, is that, if they equate that, being kind and nice is the same thing. And if I say no, I'm not a very nice person. And if I say yes, then I am nice. And that's something that's been programmed into us. And we can change that um, perception, because it doesn't make you a nice person just because you're saying yes all the time. You might,
Mm,
you know, it might be
yeah,
quite unpleasant, but you just say it because you're trained. Anyway, so thank you for that, Claire, and I appreciate that it's had a positive impact. Now, the lovely Debbie will be sharing her desktop. Um, yes, indeed, and then her presentation. So if you can go into the presentation mode.
maybe I need to do that one.
Yeah. Well, you need to go back to. I think.
There? Or back in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just for anybody else really that's joining in, that's coming through the previous, like they haven't done the first days. It's just to make sure that they know that they're in the right space.
Mhm.
So, and for myself, I'm just going to bring up I'm not quite sure how I actually do that. So
That's going to be in the way, isn't it? Not.
no, it'd be fine.
That,
That'd be,
I
yeah.
think that'll be in the way.
Yeah, or you can minimize them. But what you can do, see that mute bar? If you click on the dots and get rid of the floating panels, and you can do yeah, okay. So oh, there you go. Terrace is coming back in. So Terzit, should I say, is coming back in. And what I'm going to do is just click on my own presentation, make sure I'm there, and I also do it so I can see you as well. So make sure that we're on the, why is that not working? Let me click on. Right, so we've already done a little bit of reflection already, but what I'm going to do right now is go through a little bit of the key takeaways from yesterday. I am going to actually move that there because it's creating confusion for me. So in terms of the key takeaways from yesterday, we spoke about in terms of energy, about it being built, and that leadership energy it isn't inherited. It's created through that intentional rhythm. And I think we was talking about this yesterday about being intentional about the things that you're doing. And as you've just mentioned, Claire, is being able to do it from a controlled space. And when your energy levels are high, you've got more focus, you've got more clarity, your decision making is better. And it also means that you show up in a much better way. Uh, and possibly not looking like you've been out on the lash all night long the night before, so which we obviously don't want. But when our energies are levels are low, and we're exhausted, we're tired, and all those kind of things, and we don't have the focus, we shoot from the hip, and all those kind of things, and that means that you're not showing up as a leader. The next key area that we covered off was that, in terms of the GEMS well-being journey and the habits that we have, so it's essentially the foundational practice. And what we was helping you to do was learn some of those tools and strategies. So you're building the foundation of sustainable impact. So it's not just a one-off event. It's something that you embed into your day-to-day activities. So one of the things that I invite you to do, which I know you guys not have had the opportunity to do right now, is around the daily practice of, what 3 things have I done in maybe the last 24 hours that I'm proud of, so you're celebrating some of your successes. And that is an example. I put my teeth in as an example of that. So, and then the other part of it is, around the growth mindset of those small, consistent changes that we can create, and they have that sort of cumulative effect over time. And the more we make those statements, and we ask the question, like you've been doing, is how is this serving me, before we say yes to something and take on something for somebody else. If we stop doing that and we have more time where we have for ourselves, is the cumulative effect that it has over time and the positive impact it has. Reversing it out, as you turned around and said, is like, how's it roll down into everything else? So, your performance, your relationship, your energy levels, all of those kind of things. It's that compound effect that it has. Okay, so and from the check sheets that we will be utilizing, is really having a reflection for yourselves about how that makes you feel when you do these activities. So as an example, is that when I honor my energy first, I notice that, rather like you've just turned around and said, Claire, when I say, how is this serving me? and the benefit that has on you. And then obviously the exciting shift is the shift I'm most excited to explore is, and it does whatever it is, and how it's actually helping you and how it's actually making you feel and making you feel even more energized. Okay. So that's what was covering off yesterday. So what we're covering off today, and the lights have gone out. So we need to stand up. It's the sensor room. We're in somebody else's office today, and it's body sensitive. So saves
You
on
need to be
energy.
doing this.
I'm going to do that. It saves on energy and electric.
Yeah.
Good point, actually. So reflect. For me, when I talk about reflect is all about introspection. It's looking within yourself and trying to understand some of the decisions and the patterns and the choices that we make on a day-to-day basis. And many of them are surrounding, you know, program patterns behavior from when we are young, and it's not intentional. I mean, our families do things from a space of love. That's all they know from where they are right now. And we have the programs that come from school, our peers, communities, culture, religion, all those kind of things. They can have an impact on the way in which we see ourselves. I think from Monday, I think I was talking about these microaggressions. If someone is making certain comments on a regular basis, they start feeding into our brain, and it can impact the way in which we see things, the way we believe in ourselves, our values, and what we represent. So, from this side of it, the most important thing is being able to essentially identify the beliefs that are holding you back. So it's been able to ask those questions of what's stopping me from making these decisions going forwards. Why am I afraid to go for that job role? Why won't I take this risk on doing whatever it is? Why do I hear this thought in my head saying, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I'm not able? Um, or quite possibly some of these shoulda, coulda, wouldas that are popping into your head. And it's about trying to understand those so you can then start asking questions about it. So, what beliefs are holding you back? And then being able to examine those beliefs, or question the outdated narrative about your capabilities. Quite often, when I talk to people, because I help them to rediscover their why, and they say, "Oh, I would always love to do such and such, but I can't do it." Well, my question to that is, well, is that the truth or is that the belief? Well, if it is the truth, then what do I need to do to reframe that truth so I can find new skills, new learnings, associate with different networks and do different things, but what is it I need to do to change that truth? Transversely is belief. Quite often we make phrases that I can't do something and we say, well, is that a belief? It's trying to understand, well, where's that belief coming from and what's making you see that belief strategy and reframing it away. Well, if we talk about negative beliefs that we sometimes say to ourselves, it's like, oh, I always do that. Well, the reality is quite often we don't do that, or I'm no good at learning a language. Well, is that really true? Is it that you just haven't learned the strategy on how to learn a language in the right way? Because we all learn differently. If you stick a whole classroom of kids in, like in a classroom, sitting at a desk, and you've got someone that's teaching one style, well, you might only get 5 people in that room of 30 that can learn that skill, sort of the teaching style. Whereas the rest of the room have got no idea. Does it make them stupid? Does it make them incapable? No, it just means that that's not the style that they can adapt to. And that's what it is trying to examine those. And then, as I've said, is being able to reframe that belief and transform that limiting story into empowering truths. Because either way, we can find a way that we can actually improve that. I'll give you an example. My husband has a serious back injury. Um, and he is medically retired, he's disabled. And there's so much he can't do, and it affects him physically, mentally, and on a day-to-day basis. So quite often he can feel dysfunctional. And where he's not been working since 2017, his value of himself has become more and more eroded over time, because he doesn't feel that he can add value to the home, society, whatever it may be is. So that's going to have a knock-on effect on how you actually feel about yourself. And one of the things that he did, and I'd invite any of you to read it, is with Shad Helmstetter and his book, which is What to Say When We Talk to Ourselves, or something like that. And it's all about that, reframing the way in which we talk to ourselves. And what he decided that he really would want to do when it comes to finding your why, and what purpose you have. One of the things that he wanted to do is he wanted to learn how to do a headstand, static headstand, by the end of the year. So I said to him, well, why do you want to do that? And he said, oh, well, you come out of all of these specific reasons. I said, yeah, but why is it so important for you to want to be able to do that? And he said, well, each time he said, I know I'm not necessarily going to be able to do a handstand or a headstand in the way that anybody else would do. So what he's trying to do is find different strategies in order to do that and learn different ways to achieve that. And I said, well, why is it that you want to do that? And he said, because by me doing that, it means that I'm getting wins each time I overcome something and I achieve something. And I said, well, why do you want to do that? And he said, well, because then I can feel some value and I feel like I've got a purpose again. And that's what it is about trying to reframe the way in what you're seeing yourself. So you value yourself more, and you see that you've got far more potential, and you recognize that you've got more, you're limitless. We're all limitless. We just need to know how we can break that down. And that's what that's all about. So before I go any further on that, have anybody got any quick questions on that? Or even you're sitting here, Debbie, as well. Any thoughts?
There's a lot of truth in the questions, and we've spoken about it, Keely, before, about when I've said something to you about how somebody sees me, and you said, well, is that the truth, or is it your belief? And all of it is belief. They've never said it to me. It's just my perception, and I just berate myself before they can. It's a protection thing, I guess, because you keep having to prove yourself all the time, or believe that you've got to. That there's a lot in it, and I have read that or listened to that book. It's really, really good. And it does make you think about, you wouldn't let any of your friends speak to you like you speak to yourself. You'd have a real kind of argument with them. So why don't we argue with ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
You
a
know?
good strategy to learn, Claire. So first of all, thank you for sharing. And it is a good strategy to learn, because it's like, I liken it to, and some people will say she's a bit crazy, and they might be right. And I'm saying this in the most positive of is that I will say it's like, why are you talking to my friend Keely like that?
Yeah, yeah,
Because you wouldn't, if I spoke to you the same way as I, used to speak to myself, you'd turn around and say, go and sling your hook, do one.
yeah. See ya.
Yeah. I don't want to be your friend. But the truth is that we do that to ourselves, and it's just having that second check-in with ourselves, just to make sure that is that really the case, and do I deserve that? And no one deserves it. Okay, so the
Yeah, we are
next,
brutal.
sorry.
We are very brutal on ourselves. Yeah.
Yes, we are very, very brutal. So very, and it's nice to see your lovely smiling face now, because I couldn't see you before.
Yes. Thank you.
So right, so the next one. So obviously, why reflect matters, and I mean, some of this we've already covered this off, but it's really been about intentional about our internal narratives. So it's helping us to decide and guide our decisions that we've made. And quite often we make these without conscious awareness. So we're not making conscious decisions. And like you just turned around and said, we're making up these stories inside our head, which then potentially prevents us from taking up opportunities that will guide us into, good leaders. We got a wave. So, I love this. Anybody watching the videos go, what are they doing that for? So, it's these stories that we put in our head will determine the opportunities that we will pursue or we will avoid. And every time we keep on saying to ourselves, I can't do that because, that dreaded imposter. And I'm not going to say syndrome because that signifies that it's something that is an illness, and it's not. It is this that's preventing us from doing that. And the second part is the inherited narratives. Many high achieving women carry these outdated stories about our capabilities, and we have these like invisible scripts that limit our potential, and that causes us to have unnecessary struggle. And I'll give you an example on this, and I know we've spoken about this, and I know with yourself, Debbie, is that they've proven statistically, if there is a job role, a man will go for the job if they've got 55% of the requirements on there. With women, it's now in and around 97 to 100%. That's how much we expect to have in order to do that job role. And then we then turn around and say, well, why is it so many men get these jobs? Because they're applying for them and they're taking the risk and they're taking the punt. Now, arguably, there are some situations where, our potential does get taken away because they've got this decision, unbiased focus that's on men, because they have still got these patterns that women can't do these certain activities. Now, all the while we've got that belief we're not going to apply for those jobs when we are eroding our opportunity. Never mind somebody else's decision, when we're eroding our own. So when we stop those scripts, we can change that. And of course, this is about reclaiming our truth. So what we're going to be doing today is about questioning those inherited narratives and choosing new ones. So your power lies in recognizing the beliefs that are true, and not the beliefs that are true, but the things that are true, but then you can then identify what it is that you need to do differently, and also what's the things that are going to actually help you to become a true leader. And that's what that's about. It's about reclaiming your future and your potential. You know yourself, as you've been going through this journey yourself, Claire, that you've identified actually there's far more that I'm capable of than I actually realised. And you've already been stepping into your power as a director and changing the way you approach things. And I'm going to, I'm calling you out there, but it's what you've identified yourself, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And so what comes in alignment to that as well, these limiting beliefs that might show up. Okay. And I can't actually see you, so I'll be intrigued if you're smiling at any of these. So, but the permission seeker. So what do I mean by the permission seeker? I'm not ready for this opportunity yet. I need someone else to validate that I'm prepared before I can step forward. So you're looking for external validation to actually recognize that you're capable of doing what it is that you're doing. The other one is the credential collector, which is essentially someone that keeps on getting more and more and more and more qualified to actually demonstrate that they are legitimately qualified to lead, and that that they think their current expertise isn't enough. When the reality is that, as I've turned around and said, is that quite often you are more than capable of doing a role. It's just that you don't have the belief in yourself. In fact, one of the ladies I was talking to last year, she kept on saying that she'd got a degree in this, she got a degree in that. And I said, when is enough? When is that going to be enough? And it turned out the reason why she was doing it is she was doing it for her dad, that sadly had passed away, and he wanted a boy. So she was always trying to prove herself for her dad. I said, when is it going to be enough for him? And she said, well, it's never going to be enough. He's passed away now. But I said, but did he always believe that? Did he believe that you weren't enough? And she said, well, he never said it. I said, well, there you go then. I said, so who are you doing it for now? So she was exhausting herself with education and doing a full-time job and had 4 children. So, I mean, actually, she's quite formidable. I don't know how she managed to have the time, frankly, but there you go. Then you've then got the invisible leader, is that effectively I should minimize myself to make others feel comfortable, because you worry that you're going to be taking up too much space, or I'm asserting my voice and it's inappropriate. And it's that misguided belief that, that I shouldn't actually promote myself. And because people might think that I'm being smug, or, overstepping the mark, or all those kind of things. When in fact, actually, when people want to, if you want to be seen as a director, you need to show up as a director. People need to see you being that way. You don't need to be arrogant. You don't need to be rude, but you show up as a director, someone that can come forward with decisions and clarity. And it's okay to turn around and said, and here's why I think this. Not, oh, well, I don't agree with you, and final. But you're coming back with a reason for it. Okay. And then you've then got the overage.
Comida, comida. Nunca dá comida na minha criança.
Evgenia, can you go silent, please, love?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I was actually before I did.
Yeah, that's okay. And then we've got the overachiever, is that I must work twice as hard as everybody else to be recognized. That the only way I'm going to be seen as a leader is by proving myself and effectively exhausting myself. And I think you just mentioned this, Claire, is the fact that, you're doing for everybody else. And the funny thing is by doing for everybody else and trying to prove yourself to everybody else, when it comes to anything really strategic, you're not got the time, the capacity, the energy to be able to show up and deliver it in the best possible way that you can, so others see you as that strategic leader. And that's where that comes into it. Does that make sense? And what I would love to ask, do you recognize, put a 5 in the chat if any of you recognize any of these traits? I'm not necessarily saying that you've got to admit to all of them. It may be one of them, it may be some of them, but
I'm on my phone, so I can't do the chat, but all of them.
so that gets ready for when we get to this stage of the process. It gives you a lot of reflection. So
yeah.
yeah.
Me too.
Okay. Right. So I'm just going to move forwards one more. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing, sharing with you as an activity, it's a check sheet, is part of the B.R.A.V.E belief reframe, which is going to help you to try to channel in some of the decisions and choices that you make. I'm going to go through this quite quickly because there's detailed instructions on it. But the first thing that I'm going to be inviting you to do is what belief is trying to name that limiting thought that you're noticing that might be preventing you from making a decision of moving forwards on something. It could be something small, it could be something large, it could be a job opportunity. So, but what is the limiting thought that you're noticing that's preventing you from doing it? And then it's trying to establish what the root is of that. So where does that stem from? Whether it's experiences, messages, memories, things that have gone on with your childhood, something a teacher has said, something your mum, family, whatever. It's like, where's that coming from? And then being able to assess that. So you can then ask yourself as well, is this still true for who I am today? And actually, was it true in the first instance? Or is it something that has just been said as a throwaway comment and it's fed that towards you? And then the voice is being able to replace that with a belief that aligns with your current values. And then finally, is being able to exchange that and take action that reflects your new belief. So you can then start moving forwards on what it is that you need to do. Oh dear. Okay. So the activity sheet I will send through to you, but effectively, this is what I'm going to be inviting you to do, is identify, write down, say, one recurring belief that causes hesitation or self-doubt in your leadership example. Maybe I'm not experienced enough to lead this initiative, or I'm not capable of applying for this role, or I'm not good enough, whatever that may be. As a second example, step 2 is obviously applying the B.R.A.V.E belief framework, which you'll be given as a check sheet, and work through each of the steps of the model to explore and transform your belief around that one specific area. And then the third key step is being able to anchor it. So you're then creating a clear, empowering sentence that represents your new belief. So my new unique perspective is exactly what this initiative needs, as an example. Okay, so these are examples of what it is that we're going to be doing. So you're anchoring that belief and holding that. Okay, all right. So if you can stop sharing that on that. Okay, so okay, so that's it for tonight. We are running a tad over time on it, but hopefully that has covered off everything that you need to know this evening. Before we disappear, have you got any quick questions that you want to ask? But I will be sharing the check sheet with you in the chat. Or any observations?
No, all good. All good.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it is very brilliant to see where our challenges are. So I think the exercise will help us really improve ahead. It is brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. And Evgenia, sorry I had to silence you then, but have you got any questions before we finish off this evening?
No, no, I'm good.
Oh, sorry, that's not coming through clearly.
No, I'm good. They're all that comes through my mind.
Yeah, sorry. Evgenia, we're
Yeah.
struggling to hear you. So in the WhatsApp group, if you have a question that you need to ask or anything that you need to share, if you can share it and then we can then do a response to you there. But we're not hearing you properly, my lovely. All right. So, ladies, I hope you've had a beneficial evening and it's been positive for you. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening. And loving the new hairdo, by the way, Claire.
Thank you. Thank you.
So cool, yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for stepping forward. And thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Please.
Yeah. Have a good night. Yeah. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.